Bonjour, guten Morgen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the 2020 Europe EdTech 100, HolonIQ's annual list of the most promising EdTech startups across the region. My name's Patrick Brothers. I'm the co-CEO of HolonIQ. I'm joined by my co-CEO, Maria Spies.
Hi, everyone.
Nick Newman, partner at Emerge. Mario Borosovic, principal at Emerge. And Svenja Basson, co-founder and representing the European EdTech Alliance. It's unbelievable. It's a year since we held our global summits in Paris, in Berlin, and London. And it's so sad that we can't be together with all of our friends again this year. But we thought this was a pretty good second place, announcing the Europe EdTech 100, our first here so far. This is the 8th regional map of leading EdTech startups that we've conducted around the world throughout 2020. We've announced the China EdTech 100, the India and South Asia 100, the Russia and CIS EdTech 100, the LATAM EdTech 100, the Nordic Baltic EdTech 50, the Southeast Asia EdTech 50, the Australian New Zealand EdTech 50, the Africa EdTech 50. Of course, today we'll reveal the Europe EdTech 100, and next week we will announce the North America EdTech 100. Collectively together, mapping 800 of the world's leading EdTech startups, transforming the way the world learns. It's a really exciting moment today to announce the Europe EdTech 100. At the end of this short 45 minutes or thereabouts webinar, you'll receive this recording. The HolonIQ website will include the EdTech 100, and we'll be sharing it on social media and amongst everyone as well, and those of the 100. Let's make a start. We've got a really high impact 45 minutes for you. It's jam-packed. Firstly, we've asked our good friends at Emerge and the European EdTech Alliance to really set the scene, to share their thoughts about what's happening in the Europe ecosystem. We're going to look at the Europe EdTech 100. We're going to look at the eligibility criteria. We'll look at the scoring methodology. And of course, we'll reveal the 100. We'll look at the composition and the segmentation of the 100 as well, which is just fascinating. We are super lucky to meet some of the companies as well. We'll meet 4 of the companies who will lead short 5-minute presentations to share a little bit more about each of their organizations. If we can get the technology and connect everyone, we'll meet Rahul from Century, we'll meet Felix from GoStudent, we'll meet Oliver from Jolt.io, and we'll meet Susanna from OpenClassrooms. Some of the real standouts across the region, which we follow closely. I'm sure you do too. And then finally, we're going to look at where some of these teams grow up and land throughout the year. HolonIQ helped launch Europe's first education technology ETF, covering where all of the listed education technology companies are around the world as well. So let me stop there and hand over to Nick and Mario to share a little bit more about how Emerge sees Europe and global EdTech. Over to you, Nick and Mario.
Thank you, Patrick. Pleasure here to be supporting the amazing HolonIQ today. Thank you for the invite, guys. Emerge Education is a European seed fund investing in founders solving the 8.5 trillion skills gap. We provide founders with unrivaled education sector insights, as we're the only fund backed by the world's foremost entrepreneurs. The legacy of Europe and the Nordics, to be fair, is that it is where 25% of EdTech companies are founded, but they receive only 1% of global funding. This is, however, changing. Europe is fast becoming a hotbed of tech and a hotbed of EdTech. Europe has invested over 2 billion in over 300 VC-backed EdTech companies since 2014. Plus, there is such a strong support system shared with the Nordics. More on that later from Svenja. Next slide. Since 2014, Emerge has personally invested in 60 companies, and we're proud to see many of these companies here today in the HolonIQ Europe EdTech 100. Our fund thesis is focused on Europe. So why do we believe in Europe? What do we see? We see 3 things in great abundance. Number 1, the quality of founders is very high. people with operational and previous founding experience. Look at Bernard at Busu, James at Immersive Labs, Ewan at White Hat, Pierre at OpenClassrooms, and even not in the EdTech 100 because they're a bit too old, but Jonathan at Learning Technologies Group, who are valued over £1 billion. That's just a small sample of the great founders. 2, the quality of companies is very high. They're fast growth. They're companies in Europe, but they're entering Asia and they're entering US at a fast rate, and they're attracting significant investment. And lastly, the ecosystem support is strong. London, Amsterdam, Berlin, Rome, Lisbon, Paris, Athens, so many great cities with VCs who are investing in EdTech, which is on the up, and internationally recognized schools, universities, and global companies. Okay, let's look at a few examples. Meet Mario, who'll take you through some highlights.
Thank you, Nick, and thanks again to HolonIQ. I will now give you a quick snapshot of a few exciting European EdTech companies that have achieved major milestones, had particularly fast growth, gone international, or successfully attracted large investment over the last year. On the K-12 front, GoStudent is showing the world that European parents are also willing to invest in their children's education through online tutoring, while Photomath is showing that one of the smaller countries in Europe, Croatia, can produce one of the most used math problem-solving tools in the world. On the higher education front, London Interdisciplinary School recently became UK's first accredited university from scratch in 50 years. While Unibuddy has supported hundreds of universities worldwide and thousands of students to find best fit matches during times of closed campuses. When it comes to lifelong learning and workforce development, FutureLearn is showing the world that Europe can do large-scale MOOCs too. OpenClassrooms continues to build its excellent offer of career-oriented pathways and online courses, while White Hat is playing a crucial role in hiring and skills development through apprenticeships. On the ecosystem front, Europe has come a long way since 2014, where EdTech in Europe was basically not on the map. Exciting new EdTech specialist funds have continued to emerge and grow from France to Finland, while generalist investors are showing much bigger interest in the space as well. Our VC financing tracker has identified almost 150 unique funds that have invested in EdTech this year, with more than 50 top VCs joining our post-pandemic EdTech roundtables to discuss trends and opportunities in the space. European EdTech is no longer a niche term, but a rapidly growing ecosystem we're excited to continue supporting and following. And on that note, Nick will give you a few notes on areas we're in particularly excited about. Nick, over to you.
Thank you, Mario. In summary, we think the future of Europe is hot, okay? And we see 6 engines of opportunity as having the most future potential for Europe to create billion euro companies. We see disruptors and we see enablers, and I'll run through 2 in particular. Disruptors, you've got online vocational schools, challenger universities, but personalized, scalable workforce development. This is the biggest gap that we want to see more companies replicating what tech, SaaS, B2B has done in Europe already. And with enablers, you've got employee-university collaboration, you've got operating systems for teaching at scale, and we're just about to start a group with Ian Dunn at Coventry with 30 universities to crack technology. And if we can crack it here, it's easy to export that to the US and Asia. There's a call for more founders, a big call for more founders with crazy ideas to come into the market. EdTech is the new fintech for top talent, and Europe and the Nordics is the right place to work on your dream. The support network is fantastic. If you're an EdTech founder, please get in touch, whether you need funding or not. It is just amazing to help great founders connect to each other to ensure we make Europe and the Nordics the EdTech World Hub. Thank you, Patrick and Maria.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Mario. Long-time friends, obviously, long time to go. You guys are right in the middle of it. So thanks for sharing your insights, and a big thanks to the whole crew at Emerge as well for everything that you do to support the ecosystem. If you weren't excited about Europe before, then no doubt you are now. If you haven't met Svenja Basson, you are seriously missing out as well on a bit of energy, a whole bunch of connectivity, and a whole bunch of insight about EdTech around the world. We've asked Svenja to share a little bit about the European EdTech Alliance. Svenja, can you share a little bit more about what you're seeing and a bit more about the Alliance?
Sure, thanks, Patrick. So yeah, hi everyone. I'm the co-founder of the European EdTech Alliance, and basically what we wanted to do is, bring together all these industry associations that exist in Europe. From my side, I'm also the co-founder of EdTech France, that gathers 300 entrepreneurs, EdTech entrepreneurs in France, and you have the same thing in Germany with Edubation and Business to Bildung, in the UK with Visa, in Finland with EdTech Finland, Norway, IKT Nord, and in Sweden. So basically, we wanted to bring everyone together and say, okay, what can we do for our startups? We represent 3,000 startups in total, and so we want to join forces basically to make sure that we can provide more support to our startups, to our member startups, so that they can more easily go from one market to another in Europe. And so we have, we work on different fronts. The first one is the public policy front, where we have some actions going in terms of lobbying, trying to achieve more interoperability on the European level, working with the European Commission soon, hopefully, to basically create a European way of doing EdTech, of buying EdTech. That's the first field, and then the second field, working for startups. We want to basically have more visibility on who's doing what. So we want to create a sort of data visualization tool where you could find all these different 3,000 startups in Europe and see who's doing what in K-12 and higher ed, corporate ed, have more visibility, know as a startup who's your competitor in these different on these different markets. So show more visibility, and maybe in a few months' time, create some kind of offer for startups to basically help them with consulting, to, as I said, go from one market to another, find the right contacts, find the right VCs in these different countries, and help them basically expand. Because for now, Europe is very complex to navigate, 28 different markets, but we really want to join forces to create this European way and make sure that it's easier for startups to go from one market to another. So we're open to other trade associations. I know that Poland has created one, Austria has also created one, but we're launching our website soon, and there will be a short type form link for others to join us. But for now, yeah, we have 2 working groups joining every month to basically work on these different task force. And yeah, we're super excited, and we hope that you'll hear from us very soon with the launch of the website and the first action items we're gonna put into running. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Svenja. Really excited to see the European EdTech Alliance come to life, and I think it's a sign of the times, as Nick and Mario talked about as well, as Europe is really, really coming to the fore as we see not just COVID, but I think also just the hard work of so many people for so long as well. Thank you so much, Svenja. Thank you, Nick, and thank you, Mario, for sharing those insights. You wonderful job of setting the scene. Let's dig right in now. Firstly, on eligibility for the EdTech 100, we get a lot of these questions. I must mention geography. We've already launched the Nordic Baltic EdTech 50, and so for the purpose of this 100, the Nordic Baltic is treated separately, although of course part of Greater Europe. Depending on which map and taxonomy you're looking at, we've also looked at the Russia and CIS EdTech 100, of course, as well. And so that gives us a core, tighter geographic definition for this Europe EdTech 100. We've looked at pre-exit, so companies that have been acquired or had a controlling stake or are not or are listed are out of scope. They're also generally less than 10 years old, although for Europe, we did make some exceptions. I think Europe made an early start on EdTech compared to many around the world. And of course, technology is not just software, it's all forms of innovation as well. The criteria and methodology that we use covers HolonIQ's startup rubric. You heard from Svenja, we looked at over about 3,000 organizations across this region. We looked at 5 key criteria: market, the quality and attractiveness of the specific market in which that company competes; the product, the quality and the uniqueness of the product, demonstrated impact by that product or service as well. The team, not just the expertise of the team and track record, but also the diversity of the team. Capital, which isn't just about raising money, it's about demonstrating that you can secure the resources that you need to continue on your mission and to have the impact that you set out to achieve. And then finally, momentum, demonstrated positive changes in the size, velocity, and the impact of that team over time as well. And so let us announce today the 2020 Europe EdTech 100. This is an incredible map of some of the leaders across Europe. What you don't see on this map, though, is the thousands of other teams across the region who are doing extraordinary work, making extraordinary sacrifices, and making their way as well. I think the hardest part of the Europe EdTech 100 was those who didn't make the 100 and getting down to this group as well. I'm going to pause there and hand over to Maria to share a few insights about the Europe EdTech 100.
Thanks, Patrick. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. Thanks, Nick, Mario, and Svenja. Always wonderful to have your insights from on the ground in your part of the world. One of the things, as Patrick said, we've been doing a few EdTech 100s and 50s around different parts of the world. Each one of these geographies has their own personality. Each one of these maps has their own personality. And the Europe EdTech 100 is very interesting compared to others. What we see here is 3 or 4 solid, large groupings, and that includes upskilling, like very, very sort of solid upskilling area, everything from, from Amazon training through to new forms of MBAs, coaching, all sorts of different upskilling areas. Language learning is very strong across Europe. Learning content and resources, you might say Europe is the sort of birthplace of the educational publishing, but it's also producing some very innovative digital content and resources in the education space. And also digital learning environments, not just LMS systems, but interactivity and so on. So some very strong, quite a number of very strong areas. And that's one of the tough things about choosing the 100. And finally, I think the tutoring and homework help, and we've already mentioned that earlier as well, in terms of those not all, but mostly B2C models also growing quite strongly in this map. Patrick, if you want to just move to the next. Oh, I want to just before we move, I want to also say this map will be available on our website directly after the session, so you can jump on and take your time to look all the way through it. If we just want to analyze a little bit more, very strong workforce sector in terms of sector segmentation. Around 50% of these EdTech 100 in Europe are in the workforce sector, followed by K-12 and higher education, but a pretty good split, but focused on workforce, which is, not so unusual. We do see that quite a lot in different parts of the world as the focus on jobs and skills becomes ever more urgent. If we jump to the next slide there, Patrick, just doing a bit of segmentation by country and age, I guess, year founded. You can see the UK sort of dominates. I guess there's something like 40%, it looks like, of these companies in the EdTech 100 from the UK, followed by France and Germany, very strong. And it's so wonderful to see Netherlands, Spain, Ireland. Also, there's quite a number of really very innovative companies coming out of those countries. In terms of year founded, as Patrick said, mostly after, mostly less than 10 years old. There's a few exceptions, but great to see sort of a strong turnout of the only a couple of years old, from 2020 to 2019 and 2018. There's that says something for those very early stage companies, and then a very good helping of 3 to 5 year old companies as well. If we just jump into the next. Here this is the segmentation of the different type parts of the sector, and you can see it's relatively even. It's very well spread. But if we take a couple of things together, so on the right-hand side, management systems, digital learning environments, learning content and resources. So those 3 together are teams that support not just B2C directly, but also supporting institutions, mobile solutions, AI supported peer learning engagement systems, those sorts of teams that are supporting institutions, whether it be K-12 or higher ed. Then moving into sort of tutoring and homework help, language learning, those mostly B2C, not all, but mostly B2C solutions, quite strong. And then into the sort of upskilling MOOCs and boot camps and jobs and internships. So you could segment this into 3 sort of broad areas with the nuance in between. But, you know, generally we're talking about a very balanced portfolio. Just in terms of, you know, if you haven't seen it already, our global learning landscape, we segment the whole sort of market value chain essentially into 50 clusters of innovation, and we track each one of those. And so when we think about the way that markets are segmented, we usually turn to this taxonomy. And if we jump into the next slide, Patrick, as Patrick said, we have been looking at different geographies around the world and thinking about where their EdTech teams are growing and the top 50 or 100. And this is the India and South Asia map, which we launched last week. You know, very strong there in workforce upskilling as well. LATAM is super strong also in upskilling, language learning in particular, and very, very dominated by K-12 teams in Latin America. And moving forward through to Nordic Baltic, as Patrick said a few months ago, Nordic Baltic had a very, very strong sense of teacher and student support and technology integration, you know, deep pedagogy support there and language learning as well. And then moving forward through to Russia and CIS, a lot of upskilling and deep tech cybersecurity, machine learning, and, you know, quite a lot of sort of deep tech companies there. And then moving on to the next one, Australia and New Zealand, a relatively mixed, but, you know, lots of support for institutions in the education management and analytics side of things, actually, in the Australia-New Zealand market. And then finally, I think the Africa EdTech, again, it's mainly K-12 supported teams and lots in the language and literacy space, as well as learning content and resources in the K-12 area mostly. I think that's the last 2 of China, of course. Okay, China 100, I can't forget China. And so again, a big K-12 focus for China EdTech and those B2C models, tutoring and test prep, language learning, and so on.
Awesome. All right, now on to definitely my favorite part of this session, which is really meeting some of the leaders from the teams on the 100. Don't take our word that they're amazing and what they're doing is incredible. So I'm going to farewell Nick and Svenja and introduce Rahul Bakrania from Century. Rahul, would love to hear a little bit more about Century. Please share some more.
Thank you, Patrick. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me here today. At Century, we were concerned about some of the biggest problems faced by the education sector globally. Next slide, please, Patrick. We know that the delivery of education has largely remained unchanged. The one-size-fits-all delivery of education, where a teacher must offer classroom instruction to groups of 25 to 45 children in one room, is inadequate. It leaves many children behind, and it is really challenging for a teacher to differentiate for each student successfully. Teachers, particularly in the UK and USA, complain of teacher workload. We know that formative assessment is crucial. However, it's no good if the marking and planning process leaves 75% of teachers wanting to quit their jobs due to unmanageable workload. The technology we saw in schools 5 years ago simply digitized the manual process that existed previously. Nothing transformed the teaching and learning process to make it more efficient and powerful, which is what digitized transformation is all about. Next slide, please. Patrick, and you can run through these pretty quickly. Every student deserves a world-class education, which is personalized to his or her individual needs. At Century, we wanted to use the best of technology, neuroscience and learning science, to ensure that every student has their own constantly adapting pathway through the curriculum, which is tailored to their individual needs. We want to ensure that every teacher is empowered with the information they need to make richer human interventions. We utilize big data analytics to offer powerful insights on progress and achievement. And with this scalable and accessible technology, our mission is to help level the playing field in education. Next slide, please, Patrick. Our team of teachers, neuroscientists, educational psychologists, and engineers researched how to combine neuroscience and learning science with artificial intelligence, and we created Century. On the next slide. The platform, which through tracking and understanding learning behaviours can provide a truly personalised pathway for every student. So how does it work? Next slide, please, Patrick. If you can press play. Century offers a recommended path to each student with integrated assessments. The engine uses AI and is constantly tracking student interactions and adapting their learning pathway to plug gaps in knowledge and remedy misconceptions. Century turns student performance into easy-to-use dashboards so students, teachers, and ministries can track strengths, weaknesses, and areas to improve. Century is content agnostic. There is content on the Century platform for English schools. Users on the platform and so users can host their own content on it, for example, in higher education or a publisher wishing to move to digital. All publishers and EdTech platform providers use Century's intelligent engine as the back end of their own system via our APIs to provide personalization. Century's intelligence is unparalleled when it comes to personalization of learning and empowering educators with insights. Next slide, please, Patrick. And the impact data speaks for itself. Last week, I know it says 3 million on the slide, 5 million questions were answered on the platform. The platform has demonstrated a 30% improvement in understanding the topic, and teachers have reported saving 6 hours per week, which is nearly a working day. Our case studies range from independent, next slide please, Patrick. Our case studies range from independent to state schools, from Panama to Pakistan, and also extend to our refugee program where the platform is provided pro bono. Next slide, please, Patrick. Pre-COVID, Century was in schools across 14 countries. With the pandemic, we offered the platform for free to schools affected by lockdown in January 2020, on the next slide, when COVID first affected teachers and students in China, which meant that post-pandemic, Century grew its presence, on the next slide, to reach students and teachers in over 100 countries. Last slide. So thank you very much, and please don't hesitate to get in touch with me if you have any questions about Century.
Amazing, Rahul. I can't imagine what your team has gone through with that growth through that map. So impressive, the number of hours, and I wish you could save me 6 hours of my day. That's for sure. It's really incredible. Big kudos to you and the team, and Rahul, thanks for joining us today to share a little bit more about Century too.
Thank you.
Wonderful. All right, moving right along to a team that's grabbing a lot of attention out there right now around GoStudent. So pleasure to introduce Felix Oswald, the founder and CEO of GoStudent. Felix, over to you.
Hey guys, pleasure to be here today. Happy to share more about the story of the last couple of months. We are building the company GoStudent. It's a global school where we connect children in the age of 6 to 19 to world-class teachers. Patrick, please, let's go to the next slide. And I actually want you to think back when you guys went to high school. So just take a second, think back when you went to high school. I know for some it's been a long time, but you still have some memories. Please to the next slide. Next slide. And I want you to remember the teacher where you still today, then you know the name of. Still think of the teachers, of the people who really inspired you at school. Please to the next slide. And I can promise you, I bet that every one of you still has this 1 or 2 names. There's like each one of us still has this 1 or 2 teachers who did a remarkable and really inspiring job. In my case, it was my history teacher, for example. He taught history and Latin, and he was just able to spread this enthusiasm for this subject in a way that no other teacher was ever able to do that in my experiences. And when you have this kind of teacher, this has an impact on your whole future life. And it's at the same time, I think, one of the biggest problems in education on a global scale, that children don't have access to this really special history, math teachers whatsoever. Please to the next slide. But at the same time, you have to imagine that in the EU, around 4% of GDP, so that's like 850 billion euros, is spent every year on education. So there is a lot of money in this ecosystem, and already more than 20% is coming from households. This was the trigger that led us to build this company GoStudent. We want to solve this problem that children lack access to great teachers, and therefore we built the company 4 years ago. Please to the next slide. So we are building a global school where we connect children in this age 6 to 19 to world-class teachers. We make sure that these teachers are certified. We only take around 4 to 5% of applicants at the moment. We connect the child and the teacher always in a one-on-one learning environment. Please to the next slide. And the really amazing thing is we are not just an intermediary, so we not just connect you to one teacher, but we actually take you by the hand before the session, during the session, and after the session. So the second a parent is in need of help for their kids, they come to us, we take them by the hand, and then we support them long term. Like when you go to the fitness center, it's important that you do the training continuously and over a long time. Otherwise, you can never lose any weight. And this is also the mentality and philosophy we have built in GoStudent. It is there to have a really long-term effect on the performance of the kids. Please to the next slide. To give you a better understanding, where are we today? Actually, in November, so this month, it cannot be seen on the graph, we have already we book more than 150,000 sessions per month. We have around like a 0.5 market penetration in DACH, so there's still so much more room for growing. In the summer months, we started to expand the model into the French market. So we are now putting a lot of fire under the ass of Academia and Completude, the local old school players there, like we did with Schülerhilfe in Germany. And we are now more than 140 employees in Vienna. And yeah, really looking forward to the next couple of months for further growing the company. Please to the next slide. I wanted to share one graph I recently found. I find it highly interesting. It is a study from the year 2015. And in this study, they tried to match the skill set of a teacher with the performance of students on the PISA tests. And when you see and when you check the countries in this graph, what you see, you have a direct correlation. The more skilled the teachers are, the better the outcome on the students. And this is something we should always kind of remind ourselves in this technology, in this world full of technology. How can we leverage technology and unlock full potential of teachers and create better teachers for the future? Please to the next slide. Just a bit of thinking for the future. With the HolonIQ team, I had the pleasure to travel to Beijing last year, December. And what I found really remarkable was this two-teacher model. So in rural areas where schools don't have access to great teachers, they just put a screen into the classroom and get a live stream of the most successful and famous teachers of the country. And also kids who don't have these great teachers at school can have these live stream classes from teachers all over the country. I found this highly remarkable, and I feel that in this teacher development, there's so much more to come in the next 10 years, and we are really happy to be part of that journey. Hope to catch up with as many of you as possible in the near term. Thanks a lot for having me.
Amazing. Hey, thanks so much, Felix. It is hard to believe this time last year we were in Beijing together studying the China market, and crazy to think about those times. And not too long, I think it was only the week after when we hosted you at our Berlin summit. You've come so far in such a really relatively short space of time. It's exciting. I know there's a lot of folks around the world who have their eye on GoStudent and the work that you're doing. So congrats to you and the team, and thanks again for joining us, Felix. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, bye.
All right, over to Oliver Beach. Oliver is from Jolt.io. Oliver, can you share a little bit more about the work that you and your team do?
Sure. Thanks so much for having us today, and it's great to talk alongside some great and ambitious founders and it's also great to see some familiar faces and names in the audience as well. Some people I really look up to and have worked with before. So we're Jolt. We're an online business school. Next slide, please. Next slide. There's a lot. If we could go down a slide.
Oliver, do you want to just touch your headphone jack? It's a little bit crackly.
Sure, I'll take them.
Oh, we lost Oliver. Stand by. Let's see if we can get Oliver back. Give Oliver a moment. We might try and bring Susanna from OpenClassrooms on while Oliver is fixing his mic. Just bear with us one moment. Here we go. Hey, Susanna, how are you?
Hey, Patrick, how are you?
Good, good. Lovely to. Firstly, I should introduce Susanna Delanga. She's the Chief Product Officer at OpenClassrooms. Everyone needs to shut their eyes for a second as I flick through all of Jolt's slides to get to Susanna's. Susanna, can you share a little bit about OpenClassrooms with us all? I know many of us, know OpenClassrooms really well, but there's definitely folks here who haven't heard from OpenClassrooms. We've just got Oliver back, but let's continue with Susanna if that's okay, and then we'll finish off with Jolt. Susanna, please take it away.
Thank you for having us here. Very happy to represent OpenClassrooms. So OpenClassrooms is started based on a very simple need, which was a need of two very young kids, 11 and 13-year-old, that wanted to create a website. Because they wanted to create a website, they looked for manuals that would teach them HTML so they could actually learn and create a website. And at the time, they couldn't find any manuals. So they decided to create their own manuals. And once that happened, they said, hey, why not share what we learned with other people? So they created a forum that was called Site do Zero. And it became a very popular forum with the developers alike, and they would share development tips, courses, and they created many courses that they put it for free into that forum. In 2013, that forum became OpenClassrooms. And since they were convinced that they wanted to make education accessible to everyone, in 2013, they started OpenClassrooms with the mission to make education accessible to everyone. And the reason why we do that is because we believe that education is everybody's right. It's not a privilege. It's a big social equalizer. So if you can go to the next slide, please. Our North Star is what guides us, which means that we focus on job placement. It is our goal to help place 1 million individuals in the workforce by 2025. Every year, we post and we launch what is called an impact report. And the impact report will be reporting on our success on finding these people employability. All of our content, all of our programs aims to teach our students the competencies and the skills that they need to find a job. So everything we do is geared putting people into the workforce. Next slide, please. Today, we have about 2 million unique users learning in our courses every month. They come, if you can move to the next slide, they come from 140 different countries. And they come to our website to learn mostly about digital and transversal skills. If you can go to the next slide, please. In our website, we have about 500 courses, and they're free for everybody to access, and they will be forever free. That is continuing with the principles of our founders that education is for everyone. Most of our courses are developed, all of our courses are developed in-house. We're not a content aggregator. We develop our own content, and we develop them with the help of subject matter experts who are practitioners in their field. Besides courses, if you can go to the next slide, please, we also have what we call learning paths. Those learning paths, they are programs, they are guided programs that you can take it either part-time or full-time, and they will lead to a certification or a diploma, anyway from a bachelor's degree to a master's degree. Those paths, they are very specific because we only develop paths that is going to guarantee you have a job in the end of your learning journey with us. Those paths mostly are in coding, data science, AI, project management, IT, digital marketing, communications. So again, just to focus that those paths are related to jobs that are currently in high demand by the marketplace. You can go to the next slide, please. So what is our main unique asset? We actually believe that it is our product. What do we define as a product? We think that the product is a platform, and it's also the experience, the content, and the mentorship. So all of our products, as I mentioned before, they are developed in-house by a team of instruction designer and motion designers. We use subject matter experts that are practitioners in the field, so they are experts in their area. They are not purely educators. They actually work in their field of expertise. We also, every specific path, they are all competency driven. We identify what are the competencies and the skills that are required to develop to perform in a job. We create a specific path. Within that path, that program, all of our students will have a one-to-one mentorship session on a weekly basis to help them with their projects, with their assignments, to make sure that they stay on track. We also have one-to-many type of experience, which is what we call social experience, again, to create and help our students to progress. And all of our programs come with a job guarantee. Once you graduate from us, by the end of 6 months, we guarantee that you get a job, or we refund your fee. And the other thing that is very important, as I said, our paths, they will align to a specific diploma or certification, and that's very important because it is an accredited diploma, which means that it opens avenues for public funding for those specific programs. And we're also providing apprenticeships. So we basically focus on 3 areas: upskilling, reskilling, and apprenticeship. And if you can go to my next slide, please. We believe that at OpenClassrooms, we really changed a little bit the paradigm from the traditional education. If we think about the traditional education where schools, kids go to school, they learn from teachers, they learn for a very long period of time, then they go out, they get a diploma, and they try to find a job. Within OpenClassrooms, we kind of reverse that a little bit. We start with the end in mind. We start by working with employers and the industry, identify what are the jobs that are in demand, mapping to the skills that are required to those jobs. Then we go out and we find students that would like to be part of that training, and we pair them with employers so they can start work while they are still learning. And we believe that's a win-win situation for everybody. You have a equipped workforce and students that have and are excited to enter the workforce. And that's, in a nutshell, is OpenClassrooms. And thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, Susanna. Such a massive fan of OpenClassrooms. I think you understate how much influence OpenClassrooms has had around the world, actually, on the paradigm that you have set, and many, some in kind of disbelief at how aggressive, OpenClassrooms has thought about changing the way that that we deliver education. So thank you so much, Susanna, personally, for joining us today, and big thank you to the whole team at OpenClassrooms for the work that you do for changing the way that the world is learning. Thanks, Susanna.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
All right, take two. Oliver, I'm so sorry we lost you before. Let's go back. I've promised everyone to shut their eyes and start again. If you can share a little bit about Jolt, that'd be fabulous.
Thanks. I've also just noticed my clock is also broken. So I've got some changes to make in my apartment after this call. So yeah, as I said, I'm Oliver Beach. I'm the GM of Jolt in the UK. I'm also our Global VP of Growth. So Jolt is an online business school. Actually, before COVID, we were very much in the upskilling category. We were offering flexible classes, kind of SoulCycle meets Harvard. But based on the sort of sentiment in the market and the pandemic, there's real urgency to switch careers and make a change in your life. And so we launched in August Switch, which is a repurposing bootcamp, which I'll talk about in a second, which is 4 weeks intensive live training from our phenomenal instructors around the world, with over 100 live hours of classes in each batch of students, with over 40 world-class instructors at companies such as WeWork, Facebook, Shopify, etc. We have a live teaching assistant support, an incredible Jolt operating system backend, helping professionals switch their careers. Next slide. And so, yeah, we're really excited that Switch is a Bragwell product. Every student, after they have completed the course, are going onto LinkedIn to shout out their teachers, their fellow classmates, and talk about the impact that the Switch bootcamp has had on their mentality and their attitude towards their own ability to switch into a new ecosystem. What's really important is that we really do believe, next slide, that we are able to repurpose our students. Really believe that there's a new category to create here. People who are really grossly affected by the pandemic have skills in industries that are collapsing. People in Arcadia have significant skills in customer service and adaptability and interpersonal skills that are transferable into the tech sector, right? And we believe that we can repurpose those skills, because upskilling often takes a lot of time, and sometimes the end isn't really in sight. The outcome isn't really in sight. With reskilling, is unfortunately, I think it's for the few, not the many, not much of the time, because especially in sort of software engineering, data science, not everybody can reskill. Whereas we believe that innately people have the skills to repurpose themselves into new careers into tech, which is obviously growing. Next slide. And so what we're trying to address is one of the biggest concerns in the world today, which is unemployment. After the coronavirus, unemployment is our second biggest problem, and it's not going to just be solved by reskilling people into esoteric, high-tech jobs, but understanding the skills that people have that are transferable. Next slide. And next slide again. So what we've realized is that actually, and I think it was also in a Tech Nation report, that the tech sector is seeing a sort of 36% growth during the pandemic, because we know that the tech sector is innovative, it responds well. In the 2008 recession, massive companies were born out of difficult circumstances, and it's in tech where innovation thrives. So how can we support our students in getting into the sector? Next slide. Well, we believe, next slide again, that actually reskilling for tech is mostly focused on technical positions, but that only represents about half of the jobs. And so what we're trying to do, next slide, is help our students focus on the other half, right? Within tech companies, and I think there's a huge barrier, a perception of a barrier to get into tech because you think you need to learn to code or to be a product manager or be a data scientist. But actually holding up the pillars of global tech companies are the project managers, the support associates, the business development managers, the customer success teams. And we believe that the people that are affected a lot by the pandemic have the transferability into those key departments within tech, but they just don't know the ecosystem. They don't know the startup mentality. They don't know the systems that help startups, the lean startups build and thrive. Next slide. And so we built an incredible curriculum, which looks like a much better London Underground map, which takes you through your how to grow in your career in tech, how to orient the landscape and the skills that you need in order to thrive within startups. Next slide. And it was all made possible by an incredible kind of unfair advantage. We've been doing this for 5 years. We have over, I think, 300 hours of proprietary classes, which are constantly iterating. We're not bound by regulations, so we can constantly iterate and innovate on our curriculum and make sure that it's fit for market with our incredible instructors through an incredible software that we've built in order to manage hundreds of live classes happening at once around the world. And last slide, not only that, we're really excited that we also have partnered with the government in the UK on their Kickstart scheme, because we really are generally trying to address the unemployment crisis. And so we molded the government's Kickstart scheme to suit the needs of the tech sector, where in the first month of the 6-month placement of Kickstart, we train the young people to understand the ecosystem that they're going into. And so our first cohort, which started yesterday with Bloomberg, is doing incredibly well. And we've partnered with Bulb, All Plants, Oleos, Citymapper, some incredible tech companies who are creating pathways into tech for young people. We are acting as the gateway and supporting these young people through training. So my call to action to people today is really, if you are a company that has great financial situation, or you've been going for over a year and you want to bring young people into your company to diversify your workforce and to create pathways and futures for them, please get in touch. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. My email's in the list. And thank you so much again for having me today.
Awesome. Hey, thanks so much, Oliver. That was wonderful. I love the ethos behind Repurpose and love how you built that kind of switch product. That's so awesome. And the fact that you guys are focusing on, as you say, one of the most important issues that the world, I'm sure, not just Europe, is going through right now in terms of unemployment and looking after the other half. I love that as well. I think about that in our own company, about the superstars, and then, you know, those who are behind the scenes kind of supporting all of that as well. So thank you so much, Oliver, for joining us today, and big fans of the work that you and the whole team at Jolt are doing as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we're wrapping up now. Just going to make our way through a few slides. All right, super quick. Oh, Maria, any quick reflections, just looking back at the 100 post, hearing from a few of those amazing teams?
I think one of the things, Patrick, thanks for that. One of the things that's really strikes me about the Europe EdTech 100 is the balance of organizations across the whole market, really. We're talking about companies that are really strongly supporting institutions and teachers and enabling them and empowering them to save, you know, huge amounts of time, or, you know, be better at what they do, right through to teams which have gone from nothing to something huge in a few years in the tutoring space, and you know, really building on the momentum of the changing markets, and you know, and everything in between. I think it's a very balanced, which just goes to show really that it's a relatively mature set of markets, well supported by government, you know, and the workforce side of things is very strong across the whole 100, as it is in other parts of the world as well. which tells you something about what's going on in the world, I guess. But the reshaping of the learning and education as we know it post formal education, I think we're going to see a lot more activity in that space for sure.
Wonderful. All right, very quick 2-minute overview of the work that we've been doing in Europe throughout this year to build Europe's first education technology ETF. So I'm sure many of you are aware there are many listed companies. This is actually the place, or one of the places that many of the young companies that you have heard from today will end up as they mature through their own life cycle as well. And around the world, there are something like 300 listed education companies. HolonIQ has been indexing all of those companies, and together with Foxbury out of London, we developed the HolonIQ Foxbury Education Technology Index. That's the line that you see on the chart there in yellow, which tracks a basket of the top listed education technology companies from all around the world. The pink line there is a general index of all stocks of companies around the world as well. And so you can see here, and perhaps it's not a surprise to many, just how well education technology is performing on some of these bases compared to the rest of the market. Our partners at Rise, again based out of London, developed an ETF, which again is a way for investors to invest in these companies, these listed companies as well, that is listed on the London Stock Exchange in Germany, Italy, and Switzerland as well. It's called Learn, L-E-R-N, an ETF. We've gone on to benchmark more parts of the global impact space against education, whether that's healthcare or work or the 17 SDGs. And if you'd like to learn more about that, go to indices.holoniq.com. We'll be sharing a lot more about this in 2021. This is just the start of starting to look across the entire spectrum of how education organizations are funded around the world. We're finishing up now, so I want to big shout out and thanks to our friends at Emerge, to Svenja and the Europe Education Technology Alliance, to the leaders from the 4 teams who joined us today. Of course, congratulations to the 100 companies who have made the Europe EdTech 100 this year as well, and to the thousands more teams who, as we said, are doing incredible work all over Europe, all over the world, who aren't represented on the map, but are working just as hard to transform the way that we learn. So big thank you from all of us for joining us. As we mentioned, this recording will drop into your inbox in the next few minutes. You'll find the EdTech 100 on our website pretty soon, Maria. Perfecto. And of course, follow the newsletter, social media, and we'll be sharing more as well. Have a great day. Au revoir. We'll see you all soon, hopefully in person, if not at our North America webinar next week, where we announce the North America EdTech 100.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.